Welcome to the 30th episode of the Boomers podcast. This episode is tough and scary. I feel like I say this every time, but it's been a while. I haven't made a video for a long time. And I'm really nervous, which is weird. It's kind of my own therapy. I'm nervous about whatever. You can tell how nervous I am. Damn. This episode is about something that I think is really important. Suicide and death. They're both, I think they're really topics that people don't like to talk about in the world. But I think that that's something that's important. And I think that talking about those things is what, that's part of my channel's identity, is to talk about things that people don't like to talk about. And both of these topics I've covered in individual videos, but today I'm combining them together. And before I get started, I just want you to understand that I'm not a pro when I talk about this. I'm not some professional. I wouldn't consider myself a pro in terms of podcasting. Like I don't really know how to do things in life. I don't know how, I just do it. There's no like script, nothing to follow. You kind of just talk about it. And like, especially with like, I searched up on YouTube, like suicide awareness and like death and stuff. And like, there's no like person who actually talks about it. So I don't really have something to like look at and say, this is how you do it. I talk about it like this. So you need to understand that if I say something that you disagree with or something stupid, well, I might not necessarily mean it like that, but just so that understanding is clear. So nothing is misinterpreted or whatever. But yeah, it's a tough topic. Suicide is like, for me, okay, I think I've been suicidal a couple times in my life. Not to the extent that I was actually going to do it or was actually planning to, but there comes a point where you feel so hopeless in life and you just feel like there's no escape, that the idea of escaping through death becomes something that you can see as like peaceful. And it's kind of crazy to think about, because we don't know what comes after. Like that part is weird. And yeah, there's no structure to this video, by the way. I just talk about whatever. People don't like to talk about like suicide. It's I said that earlier, but it's like, like in this video, you can't see like the mess that's over there in my room. All you see is this. Like people have their own like persona that they hold, or their own image to you. And talking about suicide is something that they don't necessarily talk about. I haven't like talked to my friends about it or like talked with my family about it. It's something that people just don't talk about, and we need to change that. Being suicidal is okay. Like I'm not encouraging it, but if you are, that's normal. It is normal to think about killing yourself sometimes, because it's kind of like a natural response. To me, I feel like that's been my experience. I can't really speak on anyone else, but it's kind of been mine. And when you look at some people, right, like suicidal people don't always look suicidal. Like someone can be smiling and can be happy and can be, normal the way you see normal, but then the next day they could easily be dead. And the thing about that is like what you have in your head, no one else can see. Like the only way people understand what's in here is if you talk about it or if you show it through your actions. So that's why you should always like just try to have a close relationship with at least like one person, or even an object, maybe like a diary or something where you can express what's in here, because keeping everything in here is not good. And I've experienced that so many times, and even like the past couple of weeks I've been experiencing that. But like when you're suicidal, you're not in the correct state of mind. You're just not. Like I know I said it's normal. It can be normal to think of killing yourself, but it can also be normal to not be in a normal state of mind. You don't always have to be, yourself and happy and whatever good things that people like to talk about. No, that's not always good. It's also good to be negative and to not force things to be, optimistic all the time. I think I touched on this like a second ago, but I think that the cause of suicidal thoughts in general are three things in my experience: isolation, hopelessness, and a sense of worthlessness. I think that those three combined have really affected me. And like when I think about the future a lot, then it's not even about like depression, because depression is an obsession with the past. Anxiety is an obsession with the future. It's not about the past, whatever. I can get over that personally. I can get over the past. I can't get over the idea of the uncertainty of the future. That's something that always scares me. And then that turns into anxiety. And then that anxiety in the moment makes me panic. And when I'm in that panic mode of not being able to achieve whatever said thing, then it's like, okay, I feel worthless right now. I feel completely hopeless. I don't feel like I can do anything. So what is my escape? And the escape is suicide. It's weird. That's my mental process. Or yeah, that's in the past, that's the way I've thought of it. And yeah, it's just like an idea, like in my current state, I feel hopeless, and I don't think that my future will be bright. So what's the point of living? It's kind of, it's weird. Like, I think that is a form of self-hatred, like the feeling of hopelessness that people get. At least this is, again, the way I see it. I think that's a form of self-hatred. And I think that in general, hate causes suicidal thoughts and love cures it. Every time that I was ever suicidal or something, I learned to not keep that in and not just keep that up here, but I learned to talk to my family, because those are the people that I love, that are close to me, that I can trust. And that might not be family for everyone. It might be friends, might be yourself, might be a journal. Just some sort of love that I could show myself or show with others, and have others reciprocate that, and just have someone to talk to. That's so important. Like, it's the most cliche thing ever. Like, get help, talk to someone, call the suicide hotline. But that actually helps so much, man. Like, I've not personally never called a suicide hotline before, but just talking to your family, getting it out, family is so important. People you love are so important. Love is so important. Anyone who's been watching me just knows that I love. But like, when I think about it, man, like, it's not hard to die. There are so many ways you could die. Like, you could, right now in Calgary, it's minus like 30 outside. You could step outside for like an hour, just wearing like your normal clothes. You'd probably die quick. I don't want to get in too many details, but it's not hard to die. Like, if we really wanted to do it, we could. If we really, really wanted to commit suicide, we could. But I think that when we think about it deep down, no one really wants that. No one really wants to die from their own hand. And at the same time, I think that no one wants to live forever. And you're going to have some days in life where you feel like you want to die today, and some days where you feel like you're going to want to live forever. But I think that that's just the way the world is, man. Like, that's just life. You're going to have some days where you feel amazing, some days where you don't feel good. We all know that. But when I had like the first time I ever had like suicidal thoughts, I'm like, maybe like I've heard other people talk about this, and it's like, oh, things get better. I used to see and hear that a lot. So I was like, okay, let me see if this is true. Let me just not do anything, try to get past this. Might take days, might take weeks, might take months, whatever. Let me just see if things get better. Eventually they did. Things eventually did get better. And then I started to believe in that. And I'm like, okay, change is the law of life. Like, no matter what, the good times will end and the bad times will end. It's all like in an economy, there's a peak and then there's a trough or whatever, like recession and a boom. That's how I think of my life. And then like right now I'm like at the bottom of the trough or whatever, like in the recession period. And then like when I slowly get to June, it goes up. As you get closer and closer to June, it goes up, and then it goes back down. That's just how life is, man. School is stressful. School is like one of the worst things for mental health, especially if you're freaking in a pre-med program. So I think I have many people to back me up on that. But yeah. When I thought about it deep down, man, I didn't want either outcome. I didn't want to kill myself or to live forever. Even though those are two outcomes that sometimes you might want in the moment, when we think about it and we take a step back and actually think, we don't want those outcomes. We just want to. I think everyone eventually wants to die, somewhere deep down. That's me. I shouldn't speak for anyone else. I'm sorry. I should only speak about me. But accepting the idea that like things do get better helped me battle my suicidal thoughts personally. And it's totally fine to have those thoughts. There's nothing wrong. Just you need to learn how to. It's like a state you're in. It's like a. I don't want to get religious, but it's like like a devil comes into you and just tells you to like do this, do that. Like no, it's just like a temporary state, and eventually that does pass. And I know for me, I have evidence that moment passes and everything's okay. But yeah, like I said, I think that like I want to die eventually. I think most people do. I think that living forever is not a fate that everyone would like. And it's because death is like, this is what Neil deGrasse Tyson, or I don't know his name, he said this in an interview with Larry King. He's like, death is what brings focus to life, and it brings purpose. And without death, like if we were to just live forever, there's no point of getting up out of bed at night. There's no need to express love in your life. You just, because you have forever to do it. The whole idea that tomorrow's not guaranteed is what gives you, or what makes me want to, give my mom a hug, kiss my mom, hug my family, tell my friends that I love them, tell my friends that, let's do this, let's have fun. That is because of death. Seriously, like it took me a long time to think about that, but it really is because of the idea of death. And if you think about it, man, death is like so misinterpreted in society. Because obviously you don't want someone to die. You don't want, most people, you don't want most people to die, but like, death is something that I think brings people together. It's not a good thing. Like, obviously we want people to live, but an example that I can think of is two of my grandparents from each side. They died in the last 5-6 years, and those deaths impacted my family and brought us way closer with each other. And personally, it made me a more faithful person, a more pious person. Like, my family, we used to pray. We're Muslim, right? So we used to pray on and off. And I was a kid back then, so I didn't really pray that much. And then when my grandparents' deaths both hit, that made our family so much tighter. And then we actually started praying. We actually started getting more religious, stuttering. So yeah, like that is an example of, obviously, like, I didn't want my grandparents to die. I love them both, but that is an example of something that, like, if they didn't die, I probably wouldn't have gotten as religious at that point. It would have been later in my life, and who knows, maybe I could have died before that time came where I became more faithful. But grief is a good thing. Obviously, we've all had family members who pass away, but grief is a good thing. Grief is the price of love. If you grieve someone for years, and you think of them and you start to cry, and you have that shows that you care. That shows that you still have that love inside you. It's so much better to have that outcome than to have the outcome where, you just don't care, you're indifferent, and you don't cry. That's true love. When you can cry for someone who's dead, and remember them and love them in that way. That's the whole Andrew Garfield interview. He's like, all the unexpressed love that he never got to show his mom comes out when he cries about her. That's so beautiful. And I think personally, thinking about death has made me a better person, because if I died tomorrow, I want every single person that I interact with, I want them to have a good taste in their mouth from me, Like, I don't want any person that I talk to, I don't want my last conversation with them to be something really bad. I want it to be really good. And the idea that I could die tomorrow would impact that. And I make that a priority of mine, to always try to end off everything with a good note. Regardless of if I even like the person or not, just, that's something that's important to me. The idea of death has also helped with what you're watching right now, because one of my objectives with this podcast is to leave it and have it stay there long after I am down 6 feet under. So, in that way also, it has made me a better person. And I think that, I'm not gonna say, I hate saying you should, because it feels like you're forcing people telling people how to live their lives. But I think it's important to work on something, anything, that people close to you can just remember you by, and remember your character, remember your personality. Like, I know someone who does, like, voice recordings every month. I think at the end of the month, like a 2-3 minute voice recording, just updating their life. And then all those, get stored over the course of their lifetime, and then they leave that for their family. That's something, journal writing. I always think that's a cool thing. Or even like what I'm doing right now, personal diary videos. But there's something that you can leave behind, man, because legacy is also important. You shouldn't live for your legacy, but I talk about this a lot in my videos, that, this is one of my goals with this, is to have it for other people to watch after I'm gone. And like, this is one thing that really people need to fix, is that, for me personally, I won't be mad if, I go outside tomorrow and a car hits me and I die. If I die in a car crash, if, something happens, if, I go to sleep, don't wake up tomorrow morning, I won't be mad, I won't be sad, at any point in my life. I can guarantee that from now on. That's because I take steps to make sure that I'm at peace with myself. So whatever you think is something that can, keep you at peace, just take steps towards that, because I know a lot of people who just have a fear of death, That's so unhealthy to me. I think that you should always, damn it, I said shit again, but like you shouldn't have that fear of death. I think that death is supposed to be something that, you know, you're ready for. Because it's really not a bad thing, man. Like it's not as bad as people make it out to be. Because I don't know, if you're religious, you know, we might be on the verge of forever, and we might be on the verge of nothing. You know, no one truly knows. But life is suffering. Like life, you are here to suffer, and dying is a liberation from that suffering. That's why I think it's actually a good thing for the person who dies, is that, you know, you're either gonna go somewhere that lasts forever, or you're gonna go somewhere that, you know, or if that forever doesn't exist, it's just gonna be nothing. So that really brings me, you know, peace. And I think that whenever that day comes, I'll be ready, because I take steps in my life to where I think that I'll be at peace. Other people might disagree with those things, but, you know, to me personally, in my heart, I feel like those are the right moves. So then I can live. I don't have to trip over anything. It's just smooth. But I truly believe in that. I think, you know, if we are on the verge of forever, or the verge of nothing, we should take this life really seriously, because it's either going to be the end or the beginning of something. And that's why I don't think that you can seriously, when you think about it at its core, I don't think you can commit suicide. I just don't think that you can, because you are at the oh man, I don't know what I'm saying right now. I'm kind of just like, it's late. It's 2:42 a.m. It's late, but I hope that kind of makes sense. That because we don't know what comes next, you should just like let it happen normally. That's something that I agree with in terms of anything. It's just to let it happen naturally, because I think that's the most healthy way anything can happen. It's just for it to be natural. I think that you should just live, bro. Like, you should just live your life and do what you want. Cause like literally in like a week, your funeral service could already be done. Like, we don't know, man. Like, the things that I in the last like month have been so mad about is like my midterms, because I'm in second year biosci, so this is like it's like hard, man. Like, the midterm grades, the averages have been so low, and like me and everyone else that I know, we're like all struggling. And it doesn't feel good, man. And sometimes, and like I have a lot of trauma with personal school grades and mental health, so it doesn't feel good to think about those things. But, you know, when those triggers come back, when I get that bad grade, before it would be like, okay, get depressed and think about death and think about suicide. But then now it's like, okay, I learned from my mistakes. I know that, you know, when this happens, I need to talk about it. So as soon as I get some sort of, like, I don't always get bad grades, okay? I'm not stupid. Stop judging me. But like, when I get a bad grade, or when I have gotten my bad grades this year, I immediately go to my family and I just talk to them. Just talk to them about, like, you know, what I did wrong, where I can move forward from here. And they're always supportive about it, because they know, and I know, that if they were in the same position, I would do the same. And they have their own things that they talk to me about, that I help them out with. So it's just, you need good people in your life, or you need to be good with yourself. And, you know, you need to be more than what you think of yourself. Because for me, lately, my mental health has been so, like, just down here, personally, inside. I feel like I kind of don't. It's kind of bad because I kind of don't like tell that to anyone. I kind of just like keep that inside, which isn't always the best. I guess I say it out here, like I say it on the podcast, but this is where I feel like I can be most truthful. I feel like I can talk about whatever, and if I put it on some public platform, whatever, not everyone's gonna see. The people who care will see, and I love that. But yeah, I think one of the main things I'm saying here is like, you hold everything up in your head, and when you keep it all there, it will never end good. I think, I don't know this to be true, but I think with suicidal people, or the people who have committed suicide, they keep it all up in their head, and they don't think that there's an escape. And rightly so, they think that death, killing themselves, will be an escape, because it is. But the suffering that we go through in life is good, and it has meaning, and it does not go unacknowledged. I think that the suffering, and this is why I told myself that I wasn't gonna have kids. I was like, okay, this is like last year. I'm like, okay, I've gone through so much struggle in my life. I've gone through like 18 years of life, and now if I have kids, they all have to go through this exact same process, and they have to end up exactly where I am. And then I was like, okay, I don't want to bring that upon somebody. But then I thought about it, and I'm like, dude, that was beautiful. Like, despite all that pain that I went through, at the end, I ended up a better person, a bigger flower, a bigger blooming flower. So I want to bring that upon other people in the world through my own blood, if that makes sense. So the suffering is beautiful, and the suffering is what keeps me going, bro. I can't live life without suffering. I think about it, and like, if it wasn't for the suffering and the time and the pain, I don't know what I'd be doing. Like today I studied, and then around like 7:00 I started playing video games, and I'm like, bro, I'm just enjoying life right now. I'm not suffering. This isn't fun. And then I was like, okay, this podcast episode right here, I was dreading it, even though I love it. I love doing this in the moment. It's like my favorite thing in the world. But truly, I mean that. But before I started recording, I was dreading it, and that's because it's a form of suffering. This is a form of suffering, because it's kind of like, it's kind of painful, but it's also beautiful. Okay, I'm listening to what I'm saying right now, and this doesn't sound like me. But it also does. I don't know. This is kind of weird, but not everything you see on the outside is what happens on the inside. We all know that. Did that come off right? I hope it did. Like, you might think you know me, for people who do talk to me in real life and stuff, but you don't know a lot of stuff, which is okay, and the same goes for you in my perspective. So the cliche is, treat other people with respect always, and kindness, which we should do. And I think that's good. Obviously, it's good. And we should do that. We should be good with each other. Just keep loving each other. Keep being good. Yeah, man, I don't know what else to say. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I think these were two important topics that I am passionate about, and I hope if you've ever been suicidal, you could take something away from this and help prevent those thoughts and triggers from coming back in the future. That sounded cool because it sounded like Back to the Future, but whatever. Okay. I need to go sleep because I can tell that I'm just like not normal right now. But yeah, I appreciate you watching and coming again. Thanks. See ya.